Hello, dear students. We were discussing about financial markets, right? So in the earlier class also, we have discussed that financial market can be classified into two categories. So before that, financial market. So it's kind the market. Simply, the market means whereby it is the place where buyers and sellers eat, uh, meet each other and the, they do their financial transaction, monetary transaction by selling of goods and buying of goods, right? So markets are those places where buyers and sellers meet each other. Likewise, see in vegetable market also the vegetable seller comes and vegetable buyer comes. They meet each other and buyer buys the vegetable from the seller and he pays for it, right? So that's other vegetable markets. Likewise, financial markets where borrower borrows money and investor deposits, right? So financial market is the place where borrowers and investors meet each other and do their financial transaction by borrower borrows from the lender and lender invests his money, right? So this is what financial market is. So financial market is the place where borrowers and lenders meet each other and do their financial transaction. That's what we have defined in earlier class also. So, so financial market can be classified into two categories. So financial market is the place where both borrowers and investors meet each other, right? So some people need money for various other purposes, fruitful purposes, and investor intends to invest or deposit his surplus money. So one part is surplus and another part is borrower, right? So that's where they meet each other, and that place is called as financial markets, right? So financial market can be categorized into two types. One is money market and another one is capital market. So let me explain on what basis we are categorizing these financial markets into two categories. One is money market and another one is capital market, right? So money market can be defined as it is the place where short-term funds are borrowed and lent, or it is the place where funds are borrowed and lent for short term. That means, so money market, we have categorized entire financial market into two categories. One is money market and another one is capital market. So money market can be defined as it is the marketplace where short-term funds are borrowed and lent, or people who need money may borrow money for short term, and people who have surplus money intends to invest, they invest for short term, they deposit for short term in the sense maybe for overnight or maybe 12 hours, 24 hours, overnight to maximum 1 year or 364 365 days. So money market is the place where short term funds are borrowed. See, I need money, I am a businessman, I need money for short term basis, so I borrow it from the people who have surplus money and I promise them that I repay that amount within a week, right? Say for example, if I have a transportation business from Sirsi to Hubli, so I have my truck to be loaded in Sirsi, and that transportation, those goods should be transported to Hubli anyways, right? So I need money to fill that fuel tank, diesel. I need money to fill the diesel tank for my truck. So for that purpose, I need money, and I get the money once that truck reaches to Hubli, right? Once that transportation gets over, I will get my money, right? So once I get my money, I can repay it to whom I have borrowed, from whom I have borrowed, right? So money market, basically, see, these two markets can be differentiated majorly on the basis of time consumption of entire transaction. So money market, the funds are borrowed for short term, that too for few hours, that too for few days, or maximum within a year. The entire transaction in the sense, both borrowing and repayment of loan should be completed within a year, within 364 or 365 days. So we call it as money market. So easy to remember is, money market is short term basis. So capital market, vice versa to money market, it is the place where funds or money is borrowed and lent for greater period, for more than a year. So capital market is the place where funds are borrowed or lent or deposited. Funds are borrowed or lent for more than a year. So quite easy to remember is, money market works for short term basis, and capital market, it works for long term basis. See, if I need a money to start my company, or if expand my business, I may issue shares, or I may borrow money from the bank, that is debenture or debt, right? I may borrow long term loan for my business purpose. That long term in the sense, I am repaying that loan in next 10 years on yearly installment. So since the entire transaction completes after 10 years, we call it as capital market instrument. That particular loan is considered as capital market instrument. In this case, I need a money for a week, right? So in the earlier example we have taken is transportation business. My truck transported, I am transporting certain goods from Sirsi to Hubli, right? So one, but I need money to refill my fuel tank of that particular truck. I need money to fill the diesel to my truck. So I borrow from certain bank or certain other business house, certain other transportation company, asking that once my truck reaches to Hubli, I get money and I will repay you. So my truck goes today morning, and by this noon, my repayment, the entire transaction will be done and completed, right? So this morning I have borrowed some amount from some other, and I am repaying that loan. See, very simple, very simple to understand. So loan is borrowed. This is the money market. We are discussing about money market. Loan is borrowed for a day. That means in the morning I have borrowed some 10,000 rupees, and in the evening I have repaid this 10,000. I have borrowed 10,000 this morning, and I repaid this 10,000 in the evening. Maybe along with certain nominal interest rate also I am paying. We will discuss those things in next classes. So morning, so money market always discusses about the short-term fund requirement of any business or any company or any bank, specifically bank, because in the next few class we are discussing money market instruments. In that, bankers plays very vital role, because one of the foremost money market instrument is repo rate. We will discuss that later in next class, right? So money market, it is the marketplace where money is borrowed and lent on short-term basis. That too within a year. The entire transaction, borrowing of loan and repaying of loan should take place within a year. The entire transaction should be completed within a year is called as money market, right? So here I need money for short term basis, and someone comes here and that person might be having surplus money with him. Maybe he is having 1 lakh. He is having 1 lakh rupees with him. That is the surplus money he is having. So, but he intends to invest. He intends to deposit or invest for 10 months. He need his 1 lakh back in another 10 months, but as of now he intends to deposit or he intends to invest in somewhere where he can get certain amount of return on his investment, right? That means he is the surplus holder and here I am the borrower, right? So some people need money for their business to run their business, and there are certain people who have surplus money with them. So this money market facilitates place to meet these two people, right? So here is the person who has surplus money and who intends to invest for short term, that to 8 to 10 months he needs his money back. There are some people who need money for 8 to 10 months. Within a year, they borrow it and they repay within 10 months. So this money market facilitates the place where these two people can be meet each other and do their transaction. So this place is called as money market, right? So very important for your SEM exam also and your career in commerce also. Money market is the place where funds or money is borrowed and lent for short-term basis, that too within a year, from overnight to within a year, right, is called as money market. Then why we need money market? What is the objects? What is the functions of money market? The object, we have already discussed that it facilitates the place where borrower and surplus money holder, who is the depositor or investor, meet each other, and loan is borrowed for short term basis. It is the basic objective of finance money market, right? So money is borrowed and lent for short term basis is called money market. So what are its functions, right? First of all, to run my business, to run any business, they need to meet working capital requirement, right? To meet working capital requirement of any business or to meet working capital requirement of any industry. So what does this working capital means? You already studied in your 11th and 12th. So working capital, it is the fund required to run day to day or every day. To it is the fund required to run day to day business or every day's business is called as working capital, right? So money market provides fund as a working capital to any business or to any company or to any other industry, right? So working capital can be defined as fund required to run day-to-day activities, of the business. In our example, if it is the transportation company, they need fund for their fuel, right? Without fuel, they cannot run their vehicles. So the fuel, especially diesel, is their day-to-day requirement, basic requirement to run that particular business, that transportation business, right? So that expenditure on fuel must be met with some money. That money is called as working capital. So to run day-to-day activities of the business, they need some fund called working capital. If in case of restaurant business or hotel business, they need fund to procure vegetables, they need fund, they need money to buy milk, they need money to buy some other grains, rice, etc., etc., to run the restaurant or hotel business, right? So these everyday fund requirement to run their business, to run their specific industry, it is called, that money is called as working capital, right? So this working capital requirement is met by money market. So earlier we have defined money market as it is the place where short term money requirement is met, right? So the function of money market is to meet working capital requirement of any business, right? Then it act as an intermediary between borrower and depositor, right? So money market, without that particular place, these two people cannot meet each other and do their transaction. See, the two people are borrower, and he needs money for specific certain purpose, and there is the other person who has surplus money with him, who intends to invest his money, right? And he needs something to be in return for his investment, that too for short term period. He intends to invest for 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, or within a year. That's what money market talks about, short term, right? So it act as an money market, the place act as an intermediary. It is the place where these two people meet each other, right? So the next function as, so money market is the balancing force between demand and supply of money in any country's economy. Demand in the sense, demand for money arises when borrower borrows money, right? So when supply arises when investor who intends to invest his surplus money in the economy, he supplies money to the economy and borrower borrows it. He creates demand for money. Even though even the commercial banks and all other banks borrow money banks and all other commercial banks borrow money from bankers bank called Reserve Bank in India or central bank. So even banks borrow money from Reserve Bank. Why these banks need money? Why they borrow money from Reserve Bank? Because these customer of these banks, they need money for investment purpose, and banks should supply ready liquidity to those investors. So if in case this bank is not having enough money to lend, it borrows money from Reserve Bank, and it has to pay certain amount of interest on their borrowings from the central bank, and the rate they pay for the borrowing is called as repo rate. Right? In next class we will discuss about those things, because repo rate is one of the prominent money market instrument. Right? So money market is the place, it acts as a balancing force between demand and supply of the money in entire country's economy. Right? And also the next function is, so even government needs money, right? So in very recent past, government was announcing certain package, certain crores together package for COVID relief, right? To give such kind of huge money as a relief to our country, even government needs money, right? So for raising that money they need for certain purpose, they may issue treasury bills. Treasury bills are nothing but government bonds. Like in India, Kisan Vikas Patra, they are they are issuing to general public for the purpose of raising money, right? So maybe Kisan Vikas Patra is considered as one of the capital market instrument, but there are certain treasury bills which government issues for short-term borrowing purpose. Those treasury bills issued by, even though any such kind of document issued by government is called as treasury bills. It is termed as treasury bills. So these treasury bills are issued to raise short-term funds required for government, required to provide certain facilities to general public by the government, right? See, government needs fund to build infrastructure, to build roads, to build dams, to build metro trains, etc., etc. It needs some amount of fund for relief purposes, etc., etc. So for those things, it issues treasury bills in the money market, and it raises funds by issuing treasury bills, right? Then many functions we can enlist here. Money market always encourages so if the people need money, and if they get money at the time whenever they need for their further investment or to run their business, money market always gives those people timely money. It meets timely money requirement of business people. That is one of the function of money market, right? Because it always money market, the fund raised from money market is in always used as working capital in number of business, in number of industry. They use money market. The money raised from money market is used as working capital, right? Working capital, as we earlier defined, as it is the fund required to run day-to-day activities of the business, right? So in today's class, we have discussed what is money market and what is capital market is. Before that, we have discussed what is financial market. Financial market is the place where borrowers and lenders or investors meet each other and do their transaction, monetary transaction by depositing, by borrowing, right? On the basis of time period, we have categorized financial market into two categories. One is money market and another one is capital market. So money market meets short-term fund requirement. Capital market meets long-term fund requirement by the business, right? So we have discussed that primary objective of the money market is to provide short-term fund to the borrower, and also it facilitates the place for short-term deposits for those people who have surplus money with them. It is the primary objective of the money market. Later we have discussed various functions of the money market. It meets working capital required by the business people. It helps government in raising funds. It acts as an intermediary between the surplus money holder and the borrower. It acts as a balancing force between uh, demand and supply of the money in the economy, right? So it also helps, it also helps in it helps RBI, Reserve Bank or central bank in deriving bank rates. Bank rates in the sense repo rates, reverse repo rate, even though reverse repo rate is considered as one of the capital market instrument, repo rate and other rates are repo rate and bank rates are considered as money market instrument. So in the next class, we are going to discuss about money market. In the next class, we are going to discuss about money market instruments. Thank you.